What's up, everybody? It's the Digital World Podcast, and I'm gonna go over this uh, quick scene from The Simpsons, and I'm gonna give you insights because there's clues everywhere about digital assets, and I believe specifically XRP. So I'm gonna go ahead and play it and then talk through it. And also, I want to remind you, it's funny because you see it in a lot of things. You see this XRP kind of shape, and it could be a stretch. But is it? So you see his bow tie. Obviously, it has that V shape right there. And we see that. So I think that's interesting. So I'm going to just point out some stuff because I think there's a lot that meets the eye in this short scene.
I will explain cryptocurrency by clicking the link to TV's most beloved scientist, Mr. Jim Parsons.
People think I'm a nerd, but I'm actually.
Also, I want to point out right here, this guy in the suit. Now, this could be a stretch, but we see Brad Garlinghouse wear a lot of grayish suits with a white shirt, and he'll have like the tie. Now that could be a stretch, but that's interesting to note that this is the character they decided to use in the way he dresses.
Super cool. That's why I'm here to talk about the really cool subject of distributed consensus-based cryptocurrency.
And then he mentions consensus based, which the consensus protocol is something that XRP runs on. And then he says kachinga, which is like, let's make some money. And I think that's very, very interesting. And then you see like all these piles of cash. And you see how it's like pyramids here, and it has this shape in between. I'm telling you, this V shape seems to be very, very common here. Then you see the bike jumping over this. Now, this could be a stretch, but sometimes these, like the front of these buses here, look like those trucks that carry money. Those big trucks that have security guards and they have like cash in the back or whatever.
Could a nerd do that? I don't think so. For cryptocurrency to work, we need a record of every transaction that occurs. These are recorded in what's called a distributed ledger.
I'm a consensus of share.
The consent. Oh well, that's not the consensus protocol that I was talking about earlier. But yeah, they're mentioning it a lot.
Synchronized digital data
Spread across multiple platforms. So it's interesting because we know the niche for XRP is cross-border payments. And so although we see the flashing, Bs for Bitcoin or whatnot, what they're trying to subconsciously tell you, it's interesting because they're saying this, but they're showing something else. And we know that they're trying to use Bitcoin for payments, but we know that the proof of work doesn't work. It's inefficient. It costs a lot. The fees are insane. And so that's why Ripple and the native token XRP decided to start small like Amazon and then become bigger. And they started with the niche, which was cross-border payments, which if you know about how it works, there's a lot of friction in the system. And XRP would free up that friction. So I think that was an interesting part of this.
from Shanghai to Grenada.
And I'm not sure why they said Shanghai to Grenada, but I want to point out here in this particular scene right here, you notice all these X's on the trees, all these X's right there. And I'm telling you, it's very prominent across this whole clip. And so, and we see this is like an island too, an island, and we see the ocean. And usually when either you moon, you can buy yourself a private island. That's the whole like running joke. And also like the ripples we see here for the company Ripple.
Each day I'm closer to being cash of the future.
And it's saying each day I'm closer to being cash of the future. We know it's inevitable. It's inevitable. And at the end of this clip, I'm going to show you exactly why it's inevitable. And it's coming. And you can't stop the tech.
Not in your wallet, I'm in your computer. Oh.
And we've heard about digital wallets, right? And where, I mean, you can carry it on your phone and you can pay that way. Or you can even, on your computer. You can make transactions. And it's recorded on the blockchain.
When you use the current.
Now, we see here, a lot of stuff is in here. Let me just play this and then we'll go over it.
The transaction is recorded in the ledger.
All right, let me go back there.
When you use the currency, the transaction is recorded.
Okay, so a couple things here. We see the fins here. Obviously, here's the X, right? And we see another thing is if you see the background, it's waves, right? Ripple, you know, the company Ripple. And we know that Jay Biancamono once said it's going to be like a trickle, and then a flood. This seems like it could come and cause a flood, right? And here he's alluding to the fact that you can make payments with it. And it's interesting that the girl's name is April. And we know that the lawsuit, based on what Jeremy Hogan said, got extended. And he thinks that summary judgment would be anywhere from March to May. And April's in between March and May. So that's crazy. And you're making payments. And it's interesting how he's on this jet ski, which is high powered, right? It's really high powered. So maybe this is referring to high tech. And notice how as he's making a transaction, there's surveillance. There's a camera. So does that mean we're going into a surveillance state? Interesting, I'm telling you. And then obviously here you see, seems like the Freemason symbol. Oh, and another thing I want to point out is, look here. If you zoom in, it looks like an island. That's like the ocean. Here's like a pool, or that could be like next to the beach. And obviously, you know, when it moons, you can be able to afford that because you have all the money, because it's going to make you very, very profitable and wealthy. But notice that it's on bamboo sticks, right? And you see here, there's bamboo sticks as well over here. And you know that bamboo, if you've watched The Bear Bull, sometimes he'll have like outros, which, you know, talk about being like a bamboo stick where you water it for years and years and you don't see anything. Then all of a sudden just shoots up. So I think that's interesting that this specific picture is framed. We see that while the transaction is taking place, there's a camera to surveil everything you do, right? So I think that's interesting.
Ledger.
I can dig it.
And when one ledger book gets filled up, we add to a chain of previous books. That's the blockchain.
Later, glitches.
If you'd like to learn more about how cryptocurrencies work, here's everything else you need to know.
And I found it interesting how he says they can be generated by fiat like traditional currency or just thrown around randomly or all given to LeBron. And we know LeBron is nearing the billionaire status. So is he part of this trend? I don't know. I just thought it was interesting and kind of just randomly throwing a name out there.
Goodbye from me.
And here's this part.
Super cool, Jim Parsons.
Okay, and here's the thing about this. He's on a basketball court and he's shooting a free throw. Usually when you shoot a free throw, you get fouled. There's people trying to stop you from shooting or making the basket. So when you go to the free throw line, it's because you've been fouled. Could it be that, you know, with this whole Ripple lawsuit from the SEC, that they try to quote unquote foul Ripple and prevent them from scoring, you know? And also, if you think about it, this is a basket, right? And in a basket, how can you relate that to, you know, XRP? You can see the ball has this V shape again. It's very interesting. And I want to show you this video. You guys might have remembered this interview, but listen here from Chris Larson.
Okay, what about the future of cryptocurrencies? Where do you see the future of these digital assets and maybe the role of Bitcoin and Ripple or XRP in that future?
Yeah, so our view is that these digital assets really become supplemental to the existing family of currencies, right? So every country still needs its own, fiat currency for all kinds of reasons. I won't get into it. It's very complicated, right? And I actually think that the big four, the yen, the euro, the dollar, the RMB, they actually, I think, come stronger in this world that we're going into, partially because of digital assets.
Okay.
That these digital assets actually contribute to a world that's more interoperable, where more people around the globe can get access to these big four. And most of global commerce is done in the big four. So I think you have a bifurcation going on. Those big four get stronger. I think some of the smaller currencies, maybe even more of the very small fiat currencies, become less relevant, maybe even disappear. A country could have its own fiat, but still use one of the big four. You have lots of
like
examples.
Montenegro, right?
Absolutely. But I think then where the digital assets fit in, like things like XRP and Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're kind of in that mid-range. They become, I think, like the Singapore dollar or the Swiss franc, and they become useful in, kind of lubricating the world to make it easier for those big four to get in the hands of people all around the world. So that's useful. And then it might also be things like applications and devices that maybe...
So there you have it. So maybe there's a basket of currencies, right? And so here
It went in. It went in. It went in. It went in.
and it seems like I don't know if it's anything, but it bounces 3 times, and maybe there's only going to be 3 bull runs before everything's implemented. I don't know.
It went in. You saw it. It went in.
And there you have it. So I thought that was very interesting. Thought I'd do a breakdown. Some things could be stretches, but nevertheless, it's just like a fun little exercise. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. Like and subscribe. Comment below. Let me know your thoughts. As always, this is the Digital World Podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode.